than 450, which triggered us to be eligible for an assistant principal. So we're super excited to have Lauren at Three Rivers. She'll be in the office that was Miss Doyle's prior, and Miss Doyle is going to be teaching middle school electives class this coming year. But we're super excited to have Lauren on board and have her get to know our families and communities. So maybe I'll just let her take a moment just to say hello and just a little bit about herself.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So I'm super excited to be at Three Rivers. I was at Highland for the past 6 years, and I was a special ed teacher prior to that. I was a student services coordinator at Highland, and then a special ed teacher prior to that. And I've been in Central Oregon for the last 14 years. Got a couple of kiddos, a 10th grader and a 6th grader. And yeah, I'm just excited to get to meet everybody and be part of the Otter pack. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Lauren. So yeah, I'll get started and then we could just have questions if that's all right. Okay, so just if you are the parent of a middle schooler, so I'm not sure if I see any middle school parents, but we sent out an email today that kind of addressed a lot of the questions that middle school parents might be having about what's the schedule going to look like, and just some general details around that. So if you have a middle school child, you got that email today. And then today we worked on one that is essentially my normal welcome back to the families email, and that'll be coming out tomorrow. And that's got a ton of information in it about just meet the teacher events and stuff like that. But I'm happy to answer those questions that you might be wondering about right now. And if it's in the email tomorrow, you'll get a sneak peek at the answer. So that said, if I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you I don't know the answer. There are a lot of things that just seem to be changing every day. So we just have to, in the school at least, roll with it and just keep adjusting and adapting. I think that, yeah, some of the documents that we've seen from the district have been revised 10, 15, 20 times. So what I even tell you tonight might not be true when you're drinking your morning coffee tomorrow, but I'll do my best to give you accurate information. So Mindy, do you want to facilitate how we ask questions or?
Sure. So if anybody, you can either unmute or post in the chat, but I guess until we hear from them, one of the things that I just kind of wanted you to talk about is I feel like there's this worry that just kids aren't going to go back to school at all, or at least not for a while. And so can you talk about, you know, granted, we don't have a crystal ball to know how things are going to change or what the numbers are going to be, but can you talk about what the plan is right now and what you're doing at Three Rivers School to prep and how much everybody's trying to do everything they can so that kids can like get back to school as the #1 priority as much as possible?
Yep, happy to do that. So right now, if I did have a crystal ball, and if our numbers stay the same and the positivity rate on the testing stays the same, I feel very good that our K-3 kids at least would be coming back at the end of October in a hybrid model. Our superintendent's made it very clear that we're not going to jump from comprehensive distance learning to everyone all in. So it would kind of be I'm going to make this up, so it might be A through I or A through M, but you know, on Mondays and Thursdays, all the K-3 kids that have a last name that start with A through L would come in. Tuesdays, Fridays would be the M through Z, and then Wednesdays would be set aside for kids that, I guess we could call them the historically underserved population. It might be kids in IEPs, it might be kids in 504s, it could be kids identified as emotionally or mentally at risk. So on Wednesdays would be a small group, and the rules around Wednesdays right now are groups of no more than 10 and no longer than 2 hours. So I think that we can expect that if everything maintains status quo, that we'll at least be able to get our K-3 kids in the building at the end of this 6-week period. And I think there's a nervous part about parents feeling like, well, then if that happens, what my kid will only have school 2 days a week instead of 4, but those classes would be quite small. And I think that what can be done in person with a teacher and with a kid is just as impactful as 4 days in the classroom. And I also know that our teachers would certainly be sending home extra work, or that Monday group that goes home, work on this, make sure you have it prepared for Thursday. 4 or 5, if everything was great, I don't know. I'm not sure what the superintendent's thinking is on if we would ever go K5, but I'm going to guess that there's going to be an easing into it. And again, I'm saying all this from my own personal crystal ball. I have not heard this from anyone. It's really based on the positivity rates. And for our middle and high school students,
Did we lose Mr. B? Can anybody hear him? No. Oh, there he is. Okay.
like, did you hear most of that?
It cut. I think the 4 or 5. It was, you were kind of talking about what a K through 5 would be. I think that was about where you cut off.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get a little closer to my router just in case it's me. So yeah, so 4 or 5, I would say, if everything continues to go well, maybe the 12 weeks out, or if everything is amazing, maybe our superintendent would go K5 hybrid. But I think the biggest hope right now is that K through 3 coming back in 6 weeks. And I'm assuming that that must be something that they're really interested in doing, because we did hire an additional 3rd grade teacher this week. And the reason we did that was because we were only 1 student over what the limit would have been allowed in the classroom. So I'm guessing that if we're spending the money on a new staff member, that they're very serious about getting at least K3 back in the building as quick as possible.
So can you explain a little bit why the focus would be K through 3 getting back into the building versus any of the other grades?
I think, well, one, kindergarten, I mean, I think the younger they are, the less likely you're going to be able to have any kind of effective comprehensive distance learning. Having a kindergartner on an iPad is not ideal, or a 1st and 2nd grader for that matter. So I think it's just, they're the youngest. They can, I mean, not that you want to leave a 4th or 5th grader home by themselves all day either, but with the childcare and stuff like that, I think in-person learning is the most important for those grade levels. I would argue that should be K5, but I think it's also not wanting to, I guess, maybe slowly dip your toes in the water rather than just go in with everybody right off the bat.
And can you talk, Mr. B, a little bit about what school will look like for the kids that do go back, and kind of how the classrooms will be set up, masks, recess, lunches?
Yep. So kids are, every kid is not supposed to be exposed to more than 100 people in a day, including their teachers. So we'll look at those numbers, but like I mentioned, coming back in a hybrid formula would be half the class every day. So, you know, if the kindergarten classes have 22 in each of them, there'll be 11 kids there each day. And so maintaining that 100 cohort would be pretty easy. We would definitely run a few more recesses, just because we're going to consider all the kids that are in A Commons K1 a cohort. So instead of having, when we normally would have a K2 recess, this would just be a K1 recess. So those kids only stay exposed to themselves each day. When they're in the classroom, at least when we come back right away in a hybrid model, there's a little room for some classroom furniture, but most of the classrooms in our school are maxed out at like 24 to 26 capacity wise. So if that was the case, so let's look at like 4th or 5th grade, I believe are kind of right on the edge. That would be the teacher's desk and student's desk spaced 6 feet apart with no other classroom furniture. So it could be that once we're in an all in system, they're going to be going out into the commons areas to get their books off the bookshelf. There's not going to be a carpet time. There's not going to be, when they're in the hallway, they're going to need to be 6 feet apart going down the hallway. So if you can imagine, if you're a teacher with 20 kids, well, that's your line's going to be 6 times 20. That's 120 feet long. So for those teachers that like to keep an eye on their line, that's not going to be too easy anymore. But these are all just things we'll have to adjust to. But like I mentioned earlier, if I didn't get cut off before I said that, even though the kids would be coming only 2 days a week compared to 4 digitally. The teachers that I've spoken with, and I'm in agreement, is we could do a lot more in a school day with a class size of 10 or 11 kids than we could accomplish in 4 days speaking through screens like this where things are getting choppy and cut out. And so, did that answer your question, Mindy?
Yes, I think so. And I'm sure everybody can hear my dogs barking. I'm hiding in the corner of my house. So I guess then everyone feel free in the chat to ask a question or just raise your hand or something as well. But I'll just kind of keep going. Oh, Courtney, yes, please ask a question.
So I was wondering, in the event they do get to go back and someone in the school or in their AB day test positive for COVID, what does that entail as far as the other students? Is that quarantining the whole class? Is that shutting the whole school down? What does that look like, if you know?
I am not sure that I know that exactly, but what I can tell you with staff right now, for just having staff in the building, when our staff come in every day, they're acknowledging that they're, COVID free, not being tested for COVID, not awaiting results, and you come in. And then the end of the day, we have to take a survey and talk about everyone that we spent more than 15 minutes with, closer than 6 feet, where all staff are divided into small cohorts where we kind of track who we're around all day. And the idea behind that is if one of us was to get sick, that the Department of Health should be able to come in, we can pull up those logs, and that would allow them to contact trace everybody and call and say that there may have been a possible exposure. As for like exactly what would happen in a school setting if a kid became ill, I'm not sure that that has been laid out completely where we know the answer to that 100%. Lauren, have you heard anything that detailed?
I mean, I know there's a complicated flow chart that Paul Dean, our safety person at the district, has put together, and I think I think there's a chance that a lot of people would be sent home, and I think there is a possibility that it would impact the school in a pretty big way, I suspect, in terms of being able to be in school for some period of time.
Yeah, and I would agree with that assessment. I think that one random one, and maybe but if we started to see 1 or 2 or 3, I think at that point it would be shut down.
Right.
And I think,
well, I guess the good thing is out in our zip code, I looked it up and it's like 1 to 9 cases since the beginning. So I'm like, well, hopefully that trend keeps up, because out in 07, they really haven't had a problem out here.
Yep, it's pretty amazing too for all the visitors we've had.
Absolutely. We're swamped out here for sure.
Well, the most recent metric from Deschutes County was 10 cases for 100,000. So that's pretty great. Our numbers have like way gone down.
Yeah, and it was only 6 over the whole course of the weekend, this past weekend. So we're doing really well. So I'm just hoping that stays the same for now.
So, Mr. B, then after the 6 weeks, let's cross our fingers that we're still doing well. K through 3 go back, potentially 4 and 5. Then is it another 6 weeks where they decide, middle school? So, I mean, after that, how does that look?
So yeah, if you look at on the district website, basically what they're going to do is they're making a decision really on the 14th of September school starts. Somewhere around the middle of October, they will make the announcement. I believe it's maybe Monday the 12th, what's going to happen after that. So it's kind of every 4 weeks they're making the decision. Well, I guess it's 6 weeks, but you'll have a 2 weeks notice of are my kids going back? What grade levels are going back? Is it all in? Is it hybrid? So you won't learn, if on a Friday you're not going to find out what's happening Monday. On a Monday, you'll find out what's happening 2 weeks from then. So that, to answer your other question, I would guess that if we are going to have more kids coming into the building in 6 weeks, and again, this is just me speaking, not with any real knowledge, my guess would be that maybe you go to K3 all in and 4 or 5 might be hybrid. But if I got cut out earlier, having a daughter in the 612 system, she's a sophomore, they're going to be a lot more hesitant, and not necessarily maybe because the Three Rivers could probably handle it, but a lot of those comprehensive middle schools in town that have 600 kids in them, well, if you bring 300 kids into a building that are in middle school, socially distancing them and asking them to do all the things they need to do is a lot less likely, and they're going to be a lot less compliant with those directions. So yeah, I think it's going to be a long road to get our 612 kids back into the building.
That was one of the questions, or leads into one of the questions that I had for the district. Is I asked them, when kids do return to school, will they be providing masks for the kids? And their answer was yes, that they're not really sure the specifications or what kind, but they're that they will be providing mask options for kids, and that they're encouraging families to practice wearing the masks and stuff with their kids. I mean, we all have to, wear them anyway, but that, that they said that that would be available for kids. So is that what you're still hearing, Mr. B, on your end?
I'm looking at them. They're piled in the office by the thousands. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay,
we have them.
Everybody's on the same page with that.
Yeah, and we do have a few of those plastic face shields. Yeah, I think those are more kind of for like specialist staffs that might be doing speech therapy or, where they need to see their mouths. But I think the standard blue ones you kind of see everywhere when you forget yours, we have many, many of those in our office right now.
Okay. And then I see from the chat, we've got a couple of questions. One is, will the classrooms require masks and plastic partitions?
Mask, yes. Plastic partitions, no. I mean, there is plastic partitions. There'll be one, well, if kids came back into the building and started coming down to the cafeteria to get lunch, they'd still be eating in their classrooms, but that person has a plastic partition. There's one in the library. The office has the sliding glass doors, but kids, as of right now, will be expected to wear a mask. And protocols for kids who are medically exempt, that hasn't been addressed yet, but I'm sure it will be thoroughly addressed prior to us coming back to school with kids in the building.
So we can expect that kids need to wear masks pretty much the entire day that they're at school, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And my understanding is that if a child has a medical reason that they can not wear a mask, they would work to socially distance, and they would need a note from their physician.
Okay.
And also, I do think those plastic face shields, which if it's the oxygen issue or they don't uncomfortable or, sensory issues, those plastic face shields that aren't actually touching your face are allowed to be used in substitution.
I received one from someone privately, and they're asking about the process for getting iPads to students. When can they expect that to start?
Okay, so our third grade ones, we got them all set up the other day, and we're just waiting for cases to come in. So those will be coming out soon. The district ordered all of the K2 iPads, and just like everyone else in the world that's buying a ton of technology right now, they're still not ready. The last I heard, probably a week or two ago, was 5 weeks out. So it could be a little while before our K2 kids have them, but we're going to get enough for all of our new students, which are about 40 plus the third grade, and those should all be ready probably next week. And we're hoping to plan a couple, the email will come tomorrow. We are planning a couple of evenings. So like K2 on Tuesday night, 3-5 on Wednesday night, 6-8 on Thursday night from 3:30 to 5:30, kind of a drive-through meet your teacher event. And materials that we have ready to be distributed, we plan on distributing that evening. If we didn't have covers for the third grade iPads by that point, we probably wouldn't send them home because they're a lot more likely to be damaged. But I haven't heard that that's going to be that far out to get the covers. So as soon as we get stuff, we're going to start arranging events to have stuff picked up. And anything that we have ready, such as math and ELA learning kits for elementary kids, if those are put together and assembled, which isn't on the school, it's the district's taking care of that, then we'll have those ready for distribution as well. But all of our 3rd through 8th graders should have an iPad for certain by the first day of school.
That leads me into one of the other questions I have that I'll be posting this week about, is about the hotspots. So the district told me that they were going to send out an email about the hotspots. And so that, I think, was the email for the survey that went out last week. And it asked, if you have internet availability at the very bottom. Well, that didn't really sound like, yeah, like I have internet availability, but once you start getting everybody on, it just drains it. And
Yep.
so we need help. So if you didn't mark, no, I don't have internet, then you probably didn't get into the queue to get called by the office, right, about a hotspot. So you need
Yeah,
to
but
reach out directly.
we did call almost every family, recall them, because a lot of families, rightfully so, saw comprehensive distance learning and Ben Lapine online schools. And we looked like when we first opened that survey this past Monday, yeah, not this today, but a week ago, we opened that survey and it looked like we were losing a third of our student population. So we got panicked, and when we started calling families, we discovered that a lot of them sought Ben Lapine online schools. Well, that's what I was doing in the spring. I'll pick that, and thinking that they were still going to be attached to Three Rivers. So we've gone through, and many of you probably got a call from Denise at some point, and had everybody kind of just re-answer the questions, and we went through and made it right. So what I would tell people is, I heard Denise ask a lot of families that about the hotspots, and she went in and changed their answers. But if you know of anybody who needs a hotspot, you can email me or call the school office and just ask on that survey to change your answer to indicate that you would like a hotspot. And then the district will look at that survey to figure out how many they need to send to our school.
Let's see. I have another question. Is there any progress for childcare at Three Rivers, like what was set up for Ben's schools? And I did reach out to Julie Brown, who is a Three Rivers parent that does work for Ben Parks and Rec. And she said to me that Lapine Parks and Rec is usually the one that coordinates after school care or child care at Three Rivers School, and that they hadn't yet decided. Mr. B, do you have any other additional information about that?
I do, yes. So Lapine Parks and Rec is concerned that it would not be financially viable to, and I'm speaking to the after school program. So what I had last heard when I inquired about if after school care was going to be available at Three Rivers again this year, I heard from Jim Bowen, who's the director of South County, that based on the limits to the number of kids that they could actually serve, that they didn't see it being financially stable to have the amount of workers they would need and run their program. So the last I heard was there was not going to be or possibly not going to be an after school program this year once we do have kids in the building. And I have seen there's the document that gets shared between principals of what schools are hosting with Ben Parks and Rec. And I see options listed there as possibly like the Pine after school care, but I believe they're trying to decide if they can make it work. I think Ben Parks and Rec is a much bigger organization with a lot more employees that are already established, and they had the relationships, before after school programs in the schools in Bend already. So I believe that it's being looked at, but it is nothing that's been communicated to me yet to be expecting or preparing for.
I've got more questions, but does anybody else have any? Raise your hand if you have any questions. Okay. Clubs and activities for fall. So Mr. B and I have talked about this quite a bit, that Three Rivers School is just going to be, they're very busy just focusing on trying to figure out the educational needs of everybody right now and get everything dialed in. And so the school is not going to be offering any clubs or sporting programs, but the PTA, and this is one of the ones that will go out this week, would really like to do what we can. But the state of Oregon PTA has said that that local units can't help sponsor, promote, or be involved with any clubs that actually meet in person. So, I know Courtney has thought about doing a writing club where, maybe you just log kind of what you're doing a couple times a week and send it to her. And that would be the kind of thing that we would love. Mrs. Walker said she still has necklaces with like the shoes and things to hand out for kids. Or if someone's a crafter and they want to, put together little things for kids to work on, and then they have a Zoom one time a week, or any other type of online club, we would really like to hear from you, and we'd be happy to, set something up or help support it or help get the word out. and work with Mr. B in his office to get the word out. Like if there's, you know, a second language club and you have little assignments and meet on Zoom 1 day a week or something, that would be great. So if anybody has any interest or would like to help try to set up some sort of club that could be virtual, email us or contact me or something, because I'd like to help get any of those things going, just to have some extracurricular activities for our kids. Mr. B, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just think any opportunity we can provide our kids to get together. Obviously, it's not going to happen in the school right now. So, but I do think kids need to be social and playing. No, maybe not playing with each other, but you know, just getting outside and being active and kind of seeing some of their friends. So I think that anything you can do like that is great. So, yeah,
Right.
parents can take on some of that role. And I think you mentioned too, like even socially distanced hiking up at Fall River and just kind of doing some things just to get kids socializing again. I mean, if they
Right.
haven't been already. I know that I'm not having any trouble keeping my daughter from socializing right now. I'm trying to rein her in.
So if anybody has any ideas or anything, please reach out to us, and we would be happy to help out with that. Another piece, Mr. B, and I know you sent out some information, the class lists for our new parents.
Yep.
Just if you could say what we normally do and any changes for this year.
Yep. So those will go up Friday, September 4th at 4 o'clock. We'll hang them on the school doors, on the windows. It'll be first name and the first letter of the last name. So it won't be the full name and student identifying numbers or anything like that. But those will be hung up K-5. And at the same time, at that 4 o'clock on Friday the 4th, middle school students and parents, whether they use student view or parent view, will be able to log on and access their students' middle school schedule. So you find out everything on the 4th, and then I believe our Meet the Teacher events are Tuesday the 8th, Wednesday the 9th, and Thursday the 10th. And that's by grade level. So that Tuesday evening will be K2, then 3-5, then 6-8.
And then the other thing that I was going to pitch, you know, just so we can still have a sense of community, and especially for our new families, that, and I'll post this as one of my Q&As for this week, is that the Otter store is still open, and people can still buy their Three River School t-shirts and swag for kids. And are you still planning on doing a Friday, you know, school wear your colors kind of thing, Mr. B? Or...
Yeah, yep. We're going to encourage our staff to do that with their classes and the kids too. And that kind of carried on in the spring. A lot of our teachers, you know, in private emails would post themselves wearing their Otter gear on Fridays, and have Mr. Brown, I'm sure he'll still be singing the Friday song for the school. So yeah, we'll try to keep doing a lot of the things that we were doing. You know, if kids want to dress up, Tuesdays traditionally have been college day at the school. So, you know, kids can wear their college gear if they would like on Tuesdays. So yeah, we would encourage them to keep doing those things for sure, even especially when we get them back in the building.
Okay. Another thing that I and a couple of other PTA parents are working on is a directory. And right now, just because of time, but we're just looking at doing a Google form as a link on our website, just a tab, and it's just kindergarten. Each tab in the Google Excel form is for a different grade, and so you can go in there and list, you know, your kid, your name, your phone number, your email, because I think it would be really important, especially for new people that aren't going to have the chance to meet the other parents, and their kids aren't going to have a chance to meet the other kids, to have contact information. So once we get that on the website and are able to share, Mr. B also said he could add that to Otter News if you want to go in to whatever grade level your kids are and add your contact information. And then also in the, I think the tab for 7th and 8th grade, I listed a spot where you could mark if your kids are available to babysit, because I know a lot of people need babysitters or help or something. So I thought with the older kids, it might be nice for, you know, parents to mark that if their kids are available. So hopefully that would be something that'd be helpful for people. And like I said, just the easiest route right now is to make a Google Excel document and add it as a link to our website. So.
Yep. And then the reason that Mindy has to do that is just because we can't release that information. Parents have to opt into something like that. We wouldn't give anyone's phone numbers or emails or addresses away without, but we're not allowed to. So that's why you have to actually opt into it.
Another question I just received was, if you're unable to go to the school to look at the list for K through 5, will that be emailed, or is there another way?
Parents would be able to log into Parent View, and they would see their student's teacher.
And so with Parent View, because I'll be honest, it's been like 10 months since I've logged into that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to connect with you to get your kid's code or something, or your office to log in?
Yes, for the first time. So I believe that once Jill gives you that code, it's a one-time code that then you're generating your password. So it's, I believe that then if you've already logged in before, you would have to go back and kind of do the forgot password.
Okay.
But I'm not certain of that. But if it didn't work, yes, if you called Jill, we'd be able to help you out. And another great thing is just, parents, if you know a couple other third grader or fourth grader or anybody who's going to go look, have them snap a picture of it for you.
Yeah. What about buses for kids? If you do a hybrid model to go back to school, buses be running?
Yes, so I talked to the bus barn in South County today, and they feel confident that in a hybrid model, even going up all the way to K-8, that we would be able to bus our students into school in one route. Originally, they were talking about 2. One of the things that changed that was realizing that kids who are coming from the same household can all share a seat. So, the 8th grader that has to ride in the bus seat with their 2nd grader might not be too happy, but that'll allow us to have more kids and get everybody to school. So right now there are plans for busing kids, and obviously if we start K3, that's not going to be a problem at all. We have four bus routes that are out. So it's just kind of when we start growing out to, if it was everybody all in, hopefully at that point the numbers have changed and the cohort sizes are much larger, and then it wouldn't be an issue. But for now, yes, it sounds like even if we got all K8 on a hybrid model, we would still have enough busing to get all of our kids to school.
And the district sent me, they told me that they would also be putting together a little safety type video so that the kids that haven't ever rode a bus or that need refreshers about how to be I don't remember how they exactly said it, a good traveler or something, that they'll be sending that out too.
Yes, you mentioned that, and I have not seen or heard anything about that. It doesn't mean it's not happening. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things behind the scenes that it's very capable that someone's making a video at the transportation department, and I wouldn't be aware of it until it got pushed out to me.
And then everybody just raise your hand or post if you have questions. I don't want to just be taking over if you do. The school supply lists. So are we just going with the first 6 weeks of school, hoping that whatever crayons and pencils and paper we've got at home is going to be what we need, and teachers will reach out if we need other things?
Yep. So one of the things, realizing that there's so many people out of work right now and just that it's a struggle financially for everybody, is so, just like I spoke to you about, we're not allowed to do any type of fundraising right now. We're asking our PTAs not to do any fundraising. And the district is asked all the local stores to take down all the school supply list. So kindergarten through 5th grade students, when they get there, there's going to be a math learning kit and an English language arts learning kit. And in those will be some basic supplies that every kid would need to do these activities that might not be in every kid's home. And then the other thing they did was they gave the school, so Three Rivers, $10 additional per student for every kid in kindergarten through 5th grade. So what we've asked our teachers to do is take a look at what's in those learning kits, because they have access to all the things that are in there, and then start thinking about what are my kids going to need during hybrid, which might not be a whole bunch, and then what will I need when they come back to my classroom, which I'm thinking will be more on that side. So we're going to take care of, if a teacher says I need every kid to have a set of crayons, a set of colored pencils, a box of tissues, that we are going to use that money to purchase all of those supplies for that classroom. So we're not going to be at any point this school year coming to families and asking them to get school supplies, except for maybe if they need a backpack or something. But anything they would need to learn with in the classroom, that our district is taking care of this year.
That's great. Then that reminds me of the free and reduced lunch program.
Yeah, I see a hand wet, but I'll go ahead, finish your question, but I did see someone waving.
Who was it, Courtney?
Yes.
Courtney, go for it. You're on mute, honey.
Man, I'm behind the game on this. Sorry, I'm obviously going to be like a chatty Cathy tonight, but before Mindy goes to the lunches, I know that this school had like a close, I don't know what it was called, the closet that they had.
Yep.
Are you guys still accepting? I know a lot of us, if you're like me, are bored and like organizing. Are you guys still accepting donations for that, or?
Yeah, I believe that we would. They'd probably sit in a garbage bag for a while until we got around to, but yeah, but we would definitely would. And speaking of that exact same closet, our fan advocate is dealing with some things right now, but we have a substitute. And while we can't have people pass the lobby, if you have a kid who has needs, pair of sneakers or whatever, especially when we're coming back to school, if you call us and let us know what you need, well, we can snap a few pictures and show you what we have and make sure that we get that out of that room into your family.
Is there also a way, Mr. B, for you guys to then either let me or other people know if, like, as it starts getting colder, if you're seeing there's a need for kids needing jackets or gloves or whatever? Because I know, just like Courtney, I'm going through stuff and have bags of things to donate. So, you know, letting us know what the fan advocate needs on their end too.
Yes, absolutely. When she gets back, I will ask her to do that. Right now, that closet is overflowing and there are a ton of winter jackets, boots, snow pants, everything that a kid would need to get outfitted to be on the playground. But that's definitely something she stocks up on every winter. So I'm sure that she will be very excited to get back into it.
Okay, good. I just got another question for transfer students or new kids. Will there be an opportunity to do a tour of the school before they're on site? And can a parent be there if that is happening?
So if the answer was tomorrow, the answer is no. We're not allowed to have any adults, anyone that is non-staff past the lobby doors at this point. So that would include, you know, students, that kind of stuff. So ideally, yes. So I think if we were going to be having 6th to 8th graders back in the building at some point, I'm assuming that, you know, a week or two prior to that, I would be allowed to give a tour of the building. But at this point, I'm not allowed to take families around the building. That said, you'll see in the middle school email that went out, I don't have the date on the top of my mind right now, but for all 6th graders and all new middle school students, Lauren and I are going to do a Q&A, something like this, where the kids can get on and ask any questions they might have. And that was communicated in that middle school email that I mentioned that went out today. So if you know of anyone with a middle school student, at least the start would be they could come to that meeting. And I'm going to send out the Zoom link to just those kids, 6th graders and new middle school students, a couple days prior to that meeting.
I'll go, if nobody else has any other questions, I'll ask about the free and reduced meals. So I don't know if everybody saw that, but the cap for the annual salary was a lot higher this year for that. So I encourage everybody to look at that, because I believe for like a family of 4, it was
78,000.
Yeah, $78,000 a year. So, and it used to be, I think, like 46. So it's really gone up a lot. So encourage friends to fill that out. So then, are the lunches going to be the same kind of style that they have been for the last few months at school for that?
Yeah, so for sure, I know the grab and go program, as you know it right now, is going to go till September 11th. We got an email today that said, and I encourage everyone to fill out the free and reduced application if you think your family might qualify. That helps keep our Title I services going in the school. And as long as we remain a Title I school, we're able to offer a lot more kids reading, math, writing interventions that we wouldn't be able to if we weren't a Title I school. That said, the federal government announced today that they are going to continue to feed all kids across the country lunch through December 31st, 2020 on this free, like we have been doing. What will that look like when we're back at school? I'm not sure it'll look exactly like a grab and go meal, but it's my understanding that every school site will have their nutrition services back at work and serving kids meals from their home schools. So Again, fill out the application, because if it ends December 31st and your application's in, when your kid comes back from break, they'll just roll right into still receiving free meals if your family qualifies for that. And yeah, the numbers are significantly higher, and they're expecting that a ton more families will qualify based on the new Oregon guidelines. And those guidelines are in my email that you'll get tomorrow, of how many people in your household and what the minimum or maximum income can be.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
I was going to fill out the application because of the state changes, but then when I went to actually start the application, it still had the federal household income bracket. So I didn't fill it out because I'm like, well, I'm not going to qualify under that protocol.
It had the old income guidelines or the new ones?
It has the federal, the national federal. It doesn't have the state, the Oregon state changes where it's a lot higher.
Huh.
So
if you look at the email that'll come out tomorrow, that link will take you to the newest page the district is offering for filling it out.
okay, so that's going to come out tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then another question I received was, when the kids do go back to school, will there be a point where parent volunteers will be able to help the teachers with the chaos?
Yes, I mean, well, not yes. That will be determined by the school district and their response plan and when that can all start happening. So that won't be really nothing is going to be a school by school decision. So all those kinds of decisions about who can come in the building, when can they come in, how long can they come in for, that will all be determined by the school district, and we will just follow what they tell us to do. So as of now, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm assuming at some point that if we're letting a lot of kids back in the building, at some point we're going to be able to have a volunteer or two, but I'm not certain of that, and I don't know when that would happen.
That's my list of questions. Does anybody else have any questions, or Mr. B or Lauren? Is there anything that you guys have thought of that maybe we didn't cover, or?
I have a question. I missed the first like half hour at least of the meeting. So I saw that, of course, we're going to be really structured or a lot more structured this school year for the distance learning, which is really good. But I'm curious about for kids on IEPs, is there still going to be do we know if there's going to be like a once a week meeting like it was in the spring, which was kind of limited on the help that they can get, or is that going to be different somehow, or is that not even going to exist?
It will exist. So if you look at the schedule the district sent out, and our teachers all report tomorrow, so I'm imagining in the next week or two you'll start to hear, well, after the Friday the 4th, we know who's in your class. They'll start to communicate to those families, but built into that schedule are 30-minute chunks for specially designed instruction that you might be a below grade level kid, not in an IEP, so maybe you're meeting with your teacher. But if you're on an IEP and you have writing and math goals or reading and math goals, you will have a 30-minute block set aside for those goals where the STI teacher would, specially designed instruction teacher would work with your children at that grade level. So
Okay.
that will be built into the schedule. It is built into the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of confusing because there's so much information on there, and
Yeah.
I'm looking between 2 different grades. So it also kind of freaked me out because I'm having to work from home 2 to 3 days a week, and I work 8 hours a day at least. Sometimes I have to work overtime, and I'm very concerned because of how regimented it's going to be, which it's good. But at the same time, I don't know how I'm going to be able to stick to the schedule for the kids, keeping both of them on track while I'm on the phones and working all day. So I'm kind of concerned about that, especially because there's going to be actual grades this fall too.
Yep. All teachers are going to be required to record all of their lessons. So if your child can't make the 8:30 in the morning WebEx, that's going to be recorded, and you can access that material later in the day when it's convenient and submit the work. So that's, I mean, I don't want to all diminish the working parent trying to get their kids through school. So I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that we're trying to make it as easy as possible. And then I think if it gets to be very overwhelming, you just communicate with your kid's teacher. You know, if the science and the social studies is too much, then, and you want to focus on the math and the reading and the specially designed instruction for kids, then, you know, we want to work with families and we want them to get the most out of it that they can, and we want to offer as much as we can. And but as a parent, I would be kind of looking at as a smorgasbord. I want to eat as much as I can, but I'm going to get full, and sometimes I'm not going to go back for seconds and call it good. And I think, to answer your other question too, if you have a middle school student who's on an IEP and they have a reading or math goals, those kids have an entire period daily dedicated to their intervention. And so our middle school SPED teacher works very closely with our math teacher and language arts teacher, so they'll be able to support the kids with their work and do some reteaching and review and help the kids out. So that'll be a full period, well, depending on the period, but on, you know, Mondays and Thursdays, middle school kids do period 1, 2, 3, 4. Tuesdays and Fridays, they do 5, 6, 7, 8. So 2 days a week, they would have their intervention period.
Oh, okay.
And one of the intentions too, one of the intentions too of the schedule is that there's more small group time with not just the specialist intervention teachers, but also with the classroom teachers, which we know is much more engaging for students. The whole class WebEx can be a challenge for kids to participate in and stay engaged with, but you know, when they're in groups, small groups, it should be, you know, not require as much support from a parent for the child to be participating.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge was because we only had weekly meetings. Like, so my daughter only had like 2. And she actually got to the point where she was really, really engaged for the first time, I think, in a long time with her school, where she was, you know, wanting to like raise her hand. She wanted to answer all the questions. She actually had some of the answers, you know, so she got kind of into her meetings, which was really nice, but there just weren't very many. So I'm hoping that because there's going to be so much more interactive stuff, that maybe I can somehow keep my kids on track better. I don't know how it's gonna go, but we'll see. I'm hoping it goes more smoothly than I anticipate.
Yeah, and I think that engagement level at middle school will be interesting too, because especially kids who are new to 6th grade, just rolling through and seeing 4 different teachers, and it's kind of, you know, you'll have that virtual experience of moving class to class. So rather than dealing with the same teacher all day, all the time, they'll have that broken up nicely with seeing some different teachers during their school day.
Yeah, that might make it a little bit more engaging for my daughter, especially with ADHD and whatnot. Maybe she'll like it being kind of broken up more. So, and just my only other thing is when I'm starting college online, like full credits. So I'll be doing online schooling at night after work. So I got to keep them somehow on track during the day, so I'm not dealing with their schoolwork when I'm then having to go from, you know, work mode to school mode. So
yeah. Yep. Well, we want to make it as easy as possible for families. So whatever we can do to help.
Jen, you have a question?
Okay. I do. I guess my question is, how will attendance be taken? Like, is it if you're on each Zoom meeting? Is it turning your stuff in? Like, 'cause there was a group of us that were talking, like, maybe it would be fun to just take a couple of kids like out to the coast and do like a marine biology type thing for a couple of days, but if that's going to work, kind of a thing.
That should definitely work. I would say that sounds spectacular to be doing with kids right now. Attendance is going to look like, did they engage for K through 5? Did they engage with their teacher at any point during the day? So maybe they only came for the morning meeting, because you don't, or submitting assignment would mark you present. So if that child is submitting work that day, they're present. If you're asking the teacher questions through email on that particular day, you're present. So it's really just kind of engaging in some way, shape, or form on that particular day for K through 5. For 6 through 8, the attendance will be taken every period, but attendance will not be entered. It'll always be a day late. So what will happen is, if Mr. Brown has his math class at 9 in the morning and John's not there, but at 7 o'clock at night, Mr. Brown sees that John submitted his math homework, well, then it's quite possible he watched the video at 5 from Mr. Brown's class, did his homework, and sent it in. So the next day, the teachers will go in and then they'll complete all the attendance for that day. So if you were to get a call on a Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning that said your child was not present for some of their virtual learning, it's actually referring to Wednesday. And I'm sure there's going to be mistakes with that. So if you feel like, oh, my kid was at the Zoom meeting or they did something, just call Miss Jill in the office and we are happy to adjust that and work with that. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Quick question that I just thought of is, it's kind of two-part. Is the library at the school going to be open for kids to utilize, and also the PE and music YouTubes? Is that how that's going to be sent out for them?
Is she breaking up for everyone or just me?
Yeah.
Dang. Can you hear me now?
I can, and I think I heard your question. I'll at least start with what I heard the first one. Yes, the library will be open. Kids won't be able to come, but Miss Lori will be working with teachers and kind of having a scheduled library time. And we're going to have where parents can send a request to Miss Lori. My kid really wants this book, and we'll get it in a bag and we'll get it in the office, and families can come pick up materials and return materials for the library through the office.
And then the second part was PE and music. I saw that in the schedule. Is it going to be the same, like it's YouTube videos that are posted?
Both Miss Norris and Mr. Niebergall want to do live PE and music. So I imagine that will be, so I think the PE music times are K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it'll probably be some sort of live WebEx, and the kids will somehow be interacting with them. So instead of Mr. Niebergall posting a video to the YouTube channel, he'll be with the kids, can say hello to them and kind of lead them through like an exercise class. And then with Miss Norris, it'll be a music class.
That's cool. Does anybody else have any other questions? Lauren, Mr. B, do you guys have anything else to share?
I would just add that tomorrow's email will probably be information overload. I know people are craving information, so we've been trying to get it all together. And then if anytime you ever have questions or concerns, just please call the office, email myself. You can email Lauren, and we're happy to get back to you. Obviously, it's not the way I wanted to be starting the school year, but it is, and that's our reality. So I just want to make the best out of it. And I just cannot wait to actually have kids in our building again, no matter how old they are or how few they are. I am bored out of my mind. Well, not bored. I have a lot to do, but it's not the job I signed up for when I went back to school to be a teacher. So I'm just excited to get back to interacting with kids rather than reading COVID documents all day.
I have one more quick question.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask about the Canva. So this last year, or the end of this last year, we used whatever we used. I don't even remember.
Google Classroom.
Yeah, for fifth grade. Yeah, for my son's class, they used a different app, which was actually really nice. Yeah, that worked great. So Canva is going to be all the grades.
So K2 is Canvas, 3-5 is Google Classroom, and 6 through 12 is Canvas. And one of the reasons our district went with Canvas, and I think it's a great idea, is even in our small middle school, we had some teachers who used Google Classroom, others who everyone was using a different platform. So if you were a parent who said, let me see what you're doing in school, and it was really easy for middle school kids to say everything's been turned in and I look great right now, don't worry about it. And then their parents thought they were in good shape, only to find out that wasn't the case. So the Canvas learning system, they're going to have like a parent can get on or the student can get on, and all of their classes are going to be in that one interface where they'll see their science, their language arts, all the assignments that are due, a calendar of what they should be working on each day. And so as a parent, you'll be able to log into Canvas and look at your child and their calendar and look at every single assignment that is due, what they should be working on. They can go into each individual class and see the assignments. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for kids and parents. I mean, for kids that have organizational issues, when they had those already in the building, and they just got exasperated when they were out in the digital world learning. And for parents, they just had a lot of difficulty tracking what their kids were turning in, not turning in. So now this will be able to log on and say, they're not going to be able to say, no, I turned in my math homework, because it's going to be listed right there as incomplete.
Okay, so it'll be WebEx meetings for the meetings and the live meetings, and then Canvas for all the assignments.
Yep,
And
middle school classes should kind of look like they log in at the start of the period. So if the period starts at 9, they should be ready to go at 9. And the teacher will do kind of a launch or a teaching of a lesson. And then in this WebEx that we have now with the district, they can break the kids out into small groups. And just like if you've ever taken a college class online, the teacher will be able to bounce around then and work with the small groups of kids that are working on the assignment and can pull the class all back together at the end. So it should look much more like a classroom environment. I mean, it's not going to look exactly the same, obviously, but it's a step in the right direction to where it was in the spring.
Okay, that's good. I didn't like Google Classroom personally. There was too many issues of trying to upload documents and all that. So I'm kind of glad that there's going to be something else to try. I guess for my son's class in 3rd grade, they actually didn't use Canvas. They used something else. It still worked really nice. I can't remember the name of it.
I think they use Seesaw.
Seesaw, yeah, that
but
worked.
They
really
have
good.
the district is making all 3rd through 5th grade teachers use Google Classroom. They're trying to create consistency across all schools. So it really should be that any 3rd through 5th grader, no matter where you are in our school district, you're within a couple lessons of another school and you're all doing it the same.
Oh, so 4th grade is also going to be on Google Classroom this year?
3rd, 4th, and 5th, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought Canvas for them too. So
No,
I will.
6.
So it'll be different for my son, but my daughter will be on Canvas.
Yes.
Okay.
And
That might
K2
be
is Seesaw. K2 is Seesaw.
Oh, Seesaw was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, our 3rd grade teachers really keep telling me they want to use Seesaw, and I have to keep telling them that no, we have to do what the district is telling us to do, and that's the Google Classroom.
It did work good.
Yeah, it did.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Well, Lauren and Mr. B, thank you so much for making the time this evening to do this. And we'll just kind of see how things go. And if it be something to do again in the future, that might be kind of nice. But yeah, I think there was a lot of really great information shared. So I recorded it for tonight and we'll be posting it to our website and sharing that. So for all the families that weren't able to log on, they can watch it as well and get a lot of the good info.
All right. Well, thank you, Mindy, for hosting and coming up with the idea. And it's great to see all your faces. Can't wait to see your kids in the building.
We can't wait either.
Yeah, we can't wait.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll take care. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.